Authorities in the southern Thai province of Surat Thani, particularly in the low-lying and coastal district of Chaiya, remain on high alert as persistent heavy rainfall and surging sea levels have triggered ongoing flood conditions and posed risks of flash floods and landslides. The situation, which is part of a broader flooding event affecting southern Thailand, has disrupted local life and prompted continuous relief efforts. The flooding in Chaiya is primarily a result of two concurrent natural phenomena: a strong northeastern monsoon and an area of low pressure off the coast, leading to continuous, heavy precipitation across the region. This intense rainfall has caused rivers and canals to overflow their banks. In specific coastal subdistricts like Pomriyang, the high volume of rainwater combined with exceptionally high sea tides and strong, 3 to 4 meter high waves, has caused seawater to breach embankments and inundate seaside communities. This has resulted in a double whammy of riverine and coastal flooding in some areas. Chaiya is one of at least 8 districts in Surat Thani affected by the inundation, with officials monitoring it closely alongside the Chana and Kanchanaburi districts as critical areas. In January 2025, strong waves battered the coast, causing a 30-meter-long concrete sea embankment to collapse and 4 beachfront bungalows at a local resort to be swept away. Thousands of households in affected districts of Surat Thani have experienced flooding, with water levels reaching up to 50 centimeters to 1 meter in some low-lying areas. Residents in low-lying areas adjacent to mountains and rivers have been forced to evacuate to safer ground. Local transportation has been disrupted and daily activities paralyzed in heavily affected zones. The Provincial Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Office, DDPM, in Surat Thani is leading the response, working in coordination with local authorities and the military's 4th Army Region. Residents in vulnerable areas have been urged to monitor weather forecasts and follow evacuation orders, with temporary shelters established. DDPM officials and volunteers have been distributing thousands of survival kits, drinking water, and other essential supplies to flood victims. Officials have issued warnings for small boats to avoid operation due to high waves and are continuously monitoring water levels to anticipate further surges. While water levels have begun to stabilize or slightly decrease in some parts of the province, authorities caution that the situation remains dynamic and urge continued vigilance as the southern monsoon season progresses. The long-term recovery and reconstruction needs in the wake of such recurring seasonal disasters remain a concern for local authorities. The most immediate and tragic impact has been on the local population. Recent flooding events have affected tens of thousands of households across numerous districts. The crisis in Pomriyang is unique due to its geographical location, making it vulnerable to both riverine flooding from inland runoff and coastal inundation, tidal flooding or ROB, from the Gulf of Thailand. During an event in January 2025, persistent heavy rainfall caused local canals to swell rapidly. Simultaneously, the northeastern monsoon generated strong waves, up to 3 to 4 meters high, and high sea levels. This combination proved devastating, as the seawater breached coastal defenses and flowed inland, meeting the overflowing freshwater. This scenario has paralyzed daily life and created complex challenges for disaster management. The physical and economic fallout in Pomriyang has been extensive, affecting hundreds of residents and critical local infrastructure. A critical point of failure occurred when a 30-meter-long concrete sea embankment collapsed under the relentless pounding of high waves. This breach allowed a significant volume of seawater to flood inland communities, accelerating the inundation process. In seaside areas, the force of the waves and floodwaters led to substantial property destruction. At least 4 beachfront bungalows at a local resort were swept away, highlighting the extreme vulnerability of structures close to the shore. Hundreds of houses in low-lying parts of Pomriyang and neighboring sub-districts were submerged. The water levels, reaching up to a meter in some internal areas, caused severe damage to furniture, electronic equipment, and the internal structure of homes, including peeling wall paint and cracked floors due to stagnant water exposure. Pomriyang is traditionally a community with strong ties to fisheries and local agriculture. Tidal floods cause damage to coastal ecosystems, including potential harm to local fish and shrimp farms. The submersion of productive land leads to significant economic losses for local farmers and fishing communities. The destruction of resort properties and the general state of disaster severely impacts the local tourism sector, a key income source for many residents. Inundated roads severely hampered the ability of residents to commute for work or access necessary supplies, disrupting the local economy further. Local authorities and the Provincial Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Office have coordinated emergency responses, including the distribution of relief supplies and temporary evacuation assistance. The recurring nature of these severe weather events underscores a long-term challenge for Pomriyang. Experts suggest that climate change is increasing the frequency and intensity of tidal flooding and sea level rise, necessitating a greater focus on building disaster-resilient infrastructure and improving spatial planning to mitigate future risks in this vulnerable coastal area. Residents have been advised to remain vigilant as the monsoon season continues to pose a threat. Meanwhile, the resort island of Phuket, a jewel in Thailand's tourism crown, has repeatedly found itself grappling with severe flooding and related disasters throughout late 2024 and 2025. Driven by intense monsoons and unstable weather patterns, these events have caused widespread infrastructure damage, disrupted the vital tourism economy, and posed serious safety risks to both residents and visitors. Phuket experienced multiple significant flood crises. A major event in October 2025 was followed by ongoing warnings and localized flooding into November 2025. Affected areas across the island have included Phuket Town, Patong, Kamala, Kathu, Kata and Karen, Sapan Hin, Nanai. These areas are particularly vulnerable due to their topography, which includes low-lying drainage issues in urban centers and steep, landslide-prone hillsides in coastal areas like Patong Hill. The physical impact of the floods has been severe, often resulting from rapid flash floods caused by overnight downpours. The heavy rainfall has triggered numerous landslides in mountainous areas. A significant incident on Patong Hill in October 2025 blocked a crucial road for several days. Other incidents involved large rocks and debris washing down mountainsides, causing concern among residents about potential future tragedies. At least 19 roads across the wider southern region were closed during one major flooding period. Uprooted trees and collapsing power poles were common sights, leading to widespread power outages. In one instance, a power pole fell onto a parked car near Kathu, fortunately without causing injuries. Hundreds of homes across various sub-districts, including Kamala and those along the Bangyai Canal, were inundated. Residents were repeatedly advised to move their belongings to higher ground as water levels surged rapidly. As a province heavily reliant on tourism, the economic impact of these recurring disasters has been a significant concern. While precise figures for the 2025 events are still being compiled, the disruptions have hit the economy hard. Flash floods and travel chaos inevitably deter tourists. Flight operations at Phuket Airport were reportedly delayed, threatening future tourism growth. The sight of flooded markets and submerged areas forces shops and businesses to close, leading to immediate revenue loss in accommodation, dining, and shopping. Local businesses, from street vendors in markets to hotels and resorts, suffered damage to property and inventory.